in the French Alps, weighing 520 pounds, the eighth wonder of the world, Andre the Giant!
Fans, take a look at this. Can you believe that?
Andre, if he liked you, you were in good shape. If he didn't like it, I wouldn't ask him for the time of day.
Ça va être fini, mais toi, tu lutteras plus jamais de ta vie.
André, est-ce que c'est...
Plus jamais! Tais-toi, laisse-moi parler, tu me laisses parler, okay?
He was just one of the guys.
He was special. He was the guy.
Well, he was a giant among men, and he was a giant of a friend.
A man who's living in a world that's not made for him.
Andre was very kind, and took care of, as we call it, the performers he worked with. He was very proud of that. He never hurt anyone. But if he wanted to show you who was the boss, it was easy for him to do that.
Little Andre, who was never little because he was 11 pounds at birth, he began to grow very early. When little Andre, by the age of 12, was 6 feet tall and weighed 240 pounds.
The commissioned doctors at Madison Square Garden told me he's going to be lucky to live to be 40.
Nous sommes de retour, mesdames, messieurs. Après.
How about getting your foot off my shoulder?
This is his ring, and I kid you not, I can get all 3 fingers in that ring. Beautiful ring indeed, and thank you, Andre.
I myself saw him almost every night drink 7,000 calories worth of alcohol.
Brother, I was with him one night when he drank 106 beers. 106.
Let's compare it to the size of my head. Andre,
I used to play soccer, then I was in rugby, become in boxing, and now I'm in wrestling for 15 years.
You like wrestling?
I love it. In France, I finished school at 14 years old, and I said to my father, I said, I don't want to live in a farm all my life, I want to do something different. That time my father agreed with that. He said, okay. He said, hey, if you want to leave, just go. He said, well, I'll give you 2 weeks and you'll be back. I want to be somebody. Because when I left my house, when I left my family, I told him, I said, look, if I make some money, you see me again. But if I don't make any money, you never see me again.
He was the eighth wonder of the world, and he had enough of an open mind to listen to a 10-year-old scrub like me.
He was just a giant of a human being in every imaginable way, but particularly in the way of his heart.
My best memory, it was right after The Princess Bride came out, and they came to town doing a show, sitting on my dad's lap, and he started quoting the movie to me.
I remember he used to put his hand on my head, and when we'd be outside, and it was freezing cold where we were, and it would come down to here. His fingers would come here, and it would cover the back of my neck. His hand was so big, and it would keep me warm.
And he said, people think that I have a great life, that I can travel all over and everything, but people, I know, I see them. When they point at me, little kids laugh and say, what kind of a man is he? Very sensitive. He cried. I saw him cry.
I loved Andre. He had this farm in North Carolina, as I recall, and he said he loved walking with the animals because they don't look twice at him.
Hello.
Beat it, or I'll call the Brute Squad.
I'm on the Brute Squad.
You are the Brute Squad.
People think, that was the first question they asked me. Hey, do you go drinking with Andre? Wasn't it fun to drink with Andre? Because they think of him as this legendary drinker, and they think it's funny. But in fact, he drank because he was in pain. And I asked him one day, and he explained to me that his spine and his neck and his knees gave him a lot of trouble.
The reality of who he was getting more intense on him. He knew he wasn't going to live long.
Because the thing with acromegaly is most of your body grows and grows and grows, but the heart doesn't.
He knew that he wouldn't live to be 100, right? And he knew, so he didn't care. He says, when I get to the bump in the road, I'll fall, and that's it.
You never know, maybe tonight will be my last night, maybe tomorrow will be my last night, so I don't make any plans, so just keep going.
Andre's father, Boris, was approaching death at the age of 87, and Andre went to see him in France before he died. He stayed there for his father's funeral, and then he would die 2 weeks after that.
He mentioned to me once that he'd be so grateful if he could have one day a week in which I could just walk around and I'd be the size of a normal man. I could go to a movie, I could get into a cab, I could have my own car, a normal car.
It had to be an uncomfortable life. There was no level of comfort for Andre when he was on the road.
It's difficult everywhere I go because they don't build anything for big people. They build everything for blind people, for crippled people, for some other people, but not for big people. So we have to fit in there. And it's not too easy all the time.
One of the legends of the professional wrestling world is dead tonight. Andre Roussimoff, better known as Andre the Giant, died of an apparent heart attack.